All right, here we go. What's up, everybody? Today is Friday. We're going to do a little sound design with the Dub Techno rack. And the first thing I want to say is this is not one of mine. This is from our friend Morten Mindbender, who made it and shared it with us in the Discord group. So I'm going to show you what is in the rack, how I use it to develop the sound over time to spark an idea for a Dub Techno track. It could be any BPM, any genre. It doesn't have to be the Dub Techno genre. It's a feeling, it's a sound, it's a vibe. You can hear it in the background, and we'll take a little look at that. But first, I want to make sure you can get this. So it's available in the Mixitecture Discord server. Let me get to the right window. Here we are in Discord. Up at the top, it says Mixitecture, and these are in the free channels. So this is a totally free thing. You just have to join the server, and you can go down to Racks, Presets, and Patches, which is called the channel. And then there's a thread that says Mindbender's Dub Techno. And he's got a little description of it, a Google Drive link. You can download the project. I think it uses Operator. You'll see that in a second. I think he made it with Live 10. So you're going to need Live 10 Suite at least. And let me see if I can just grab the Discord link. For anybody who did not join us yet. Discord is a separate program. It's like Skype or Zoom or something. You go to Discord, download the app on your computer, open it up, and then join Mixitecture server. So it's like an app that has kind of like addresses inside it or places you can go, like different companies, different channels or sites or whatever, but it's called servers. Join the Mixitecture server, which is free, and then you can get to this channel at the Google Drive link, and you can get the actual thing we're going to play with in this session. And you can see what else we're doing. Here's a link to the track we're listening to right now that I made. And I'll go and go to live. And here we are with a session. So we got Octavio going out to shovel some snow. You can catch the replay. VTEX here. Cool, thanks for hanging out. So what we're listening to is a track I put together. And the main thing here is this Dub Techno instrument. And you can see that the sound is very basic. It's just one chord. It's an E minor chord, E, G, and B. And during this 5 or 6 minute track, I'm tweaking a whole bunch of stuff that's inside the rack. So let's make this really clear and simple. Got the channel soloed. I'm going to stop all the other clips and only play the Dub Techno chord. All right, turn this up so we got a nice loud broadcast on the feed. Check that level. Okay. So there's the operator instrument. What is going on in here? Let's open this up. There's a glue compressor at the end. We've got an echo delay effect, okay? There's a bit crusher. What's this effect unit? Aha, an auto filter. Let's roll that back up. I'm going to bypass all the effects and get back to the root sound. A dub reverb. Nice long reverb, okay. Waiting. A little compressor on the chords. And starting off with a basic sound, check out how little is happening. That is a super simple sound. Parrish, what's going on? Like, that sound is so little and basic, it's not even happening very often at all. Let me get this going on more often. So in Operator, it's a super simple sound. You don't have to have a long sweeping anything. There's a couple layers. What if we turn them off? You can hear a little bit of a noise layer. And this is not going to be a big Operator adventure. I'm looking for where attack and release are mapped to in here. Volume attack. That might be a fun one to play with. The release time. Release time is always important on a synth. So really short is just a little like pluck of sound. And longer can give it more ambient space, but we're going to get the ambient space from something else. So I'm going to leave you to explore Operator on your own. There's a whole world of stuff in there that you could create amazing stuff just with Operator. Notice that our first macro control here is our synth noise level. And that's coming from our separate patch of Operator. So there's basically 2 layers of Operator happening. Let me turn on all these other layers. It's a complex instrument or a compound instrument with kind of 2 instrument layers happening. You can use rack chains. So the first layer is just our chords, our pitch, our notes. The second layer is one single sound that's making just a noise generator. And we've got the synth noise macro knob mapped to control the volume on that sound. So let's turn our 2 layers on. And then we have our synth attack time, sharper, and growing longer. And it might help to have a little longer release. So you can have a softer or harder kind of onset of the sound. Let's leave a little release time on there. Okay, and we're not even going to play with Operator in this workshop because Operator can get crazy deep. So then we had a compressor. This is just to get the transients down. Dub techno is a smooth, kind of like much more chill vibe. So we want to have a level sound that doesn't have a big transient spike. Now let's get back into the good stuff. So minimize that. Now we're going to turn on the dub reverb. Oh, you know what? I should mention the filter. See, lots of layers. What is the filter knob connected to? Was that over there? Chord compressor reverb. Oh no, that was a low pass filter. So you can do filters in so many places. Okay, so minimize that. And for construction of these, the idea we wanted to arrive at, or that I like, is that there are only 8 macro knobs. So eventually you can control this whole instrument with only 8 knobs, which means on your push or whatever controller you have, you can easily grab the sound with only those 8 controls. So you don't have to go menu diving with the mouse through all these effect racks and everything. Martin's got them mapped out to the major, like the top level. So we've got the synth white noise, synth attack. Filter is controlling that low pass filter that we'll get to in a second. Reverb, dry, wet. So let's turn on this rack. And then the decay time. So let's start with it where we can hear it, but it's not fully expanded. And on the devices, he's got a lot going on with these reverbs. Layers make for interesting complexity. There's a live 10 thing, I'll upgrade that. I like to go through and upgrade reverbs to the high quality mode instead of eco. Okay. And a little bit of even dynamic tubes. There's a lot of complex sound design to make a thick, rich, textured sound that you wouldn't necessarily get from just one reverb by itself. But I want to focus more on how to use these modulators to create motion and time in the track instead of looking at exactly how to build every single thing in here. But let me know if you have any questions. And I'll try to, because I'm trying to keep this down to like just an hour instead of like a 4-hour workshop of every single parameter plus what we do with it. So we've got the reverb with a dry wet. And then we had the filter. Okay. Now, if I was building this rack, I might not necessarily have a whole separate effect rack inside the instrument rack. I might just have the auto filter as a plugin after the instrument. But you can hear it's getting kind of interesting. Maybe give it a little kick drum to keep it interesting, right? And just by slowly moving this filter, you can feel that it's getting kind of interesting. It's like taking you on a progression. Alex B only has 10 minutes. All right, 10-minute summary. Grab the macro knobs, tweak them through the whole length of the track. Make a 5-minute track. And when you download this, you might be thinking, oh, I want to add some resonance on the auto filter, but there isn't a clear place to grab the resonance. How do I get to that control? And actually, I don't know the answer right now, so we got to figure it out. Let's right-click on that. Map to low pass. Aha. This is interesting. So Martin created this where the resonance changes as the frequency changes, where we're giving it a little bit more resonance at the bottom of the filter sweep and a little bit less resonance at the top. As you sweep a filter through especially through the range from like 2,000 to 6,000 in that upper mid-range area, if you have a lot of resonance, it can get really screechy and peaky. Anybody who's ever tweaked a filter and the resonance at the same time, if you have the resonance up high and you sweep down, you get like meow, and it can really like rip your speakers. So it's pretty cool to map the resonance and the filter to the same knob. And if you want to get into modifying your sound, what you can do is enter mapping mode, open the browser on the side. You can just click on the parameter you want to map. And let's say we want to change this. Let's say we want to have a bunch more resonance. Overall, we still want it to get lower as we go down, but let's go up to like a noticeable amount. Now, as I tweak the filter, you hear that? Let's go up a little bit more. If you like that real obvious sweepy sound, wow, wow, wow. And the resonance still gets lower at the top edge of the curve. If I don't do that, let's just undo that setting, jack up the resonance. Down here, high resonance is cool, wow, 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 right? But what happens when we go a little bit up? In this area, it can get kind of peaking, So let's remap that. I was going to try and undo to map it, but I can't do that. So select the parameter you want to map, put it to the same macro knob that's already connected. Now for the range, we want to have the top end of the range be a lower setting and the bottom end of the range be a higher setting. Let's go like around 15, 35 kind of thing. That way, as I bring the filter down, we get a little more resonance. Raise the filter up, get a little less resonance. And also notice that these knobs are moving in opposite directions. So filter up, resonance goes down. To achieve that, you go to your resonance and invert range. Now I just inverted it the wrong way. So now they're both going up. Resonance goes up at the top, resonance goes down at the bottom. That's not what we want because we don't want screechy, squeaky resonance. So I right click on here, invert range. I hope you can see the invert window pop up when I right click on that. And that's a really handy way to get a complex filter sweep sound with just one knob control, and then to get it out to the main macro section. How do we do that? Oh, click on the knob, it says macro 3, it's assigned to the knob called filter in the main rack. So what we're doing is taking a simple auto filter plugin, doing frequency and resonance mapped to one knob on this instrument rack, and then taking that one knob and bringing it out to the main macro knob rack so we have all those controls available. That's a really good way to get a multiple modulators happening with one touch out at the macro level, at the top level macro. So at the beginning, remember I said a minute ago, I was like, oh, why did you have an auto filter there? You could just do it with the one plugin all by itself. I could do that. I could drop an auto filter right after the operator synth and map those two controls to the one filter knob, but it does make sense to do it this way. So give me a yes on that. Say like a yes filter or something, so if you understand what I'm doing, mapping a couple of knobs, a couple parameters to one knob, or Martin did it eventually, but I'm explaining it. And of course, the point of all this is, as we're riding through the track, you can just do these slow filter sweeps, which you can automate, bring them down, and then at an opportune moment, slowly start bringing them up. And when it gets high, Parrish, thank you. Yes, filter. Then you can drop a beat or something. This is I like how the dub techno world has some found sound and more like natural ambient sort of thing. So I made a drum beat from sounds of a door slamming with a floppy knob latch and keys and everything. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about dub techno chords. And we just looked at the auto filter setting, how to map a bunch of knobs. Next, the Echoplex delay. Let's take our reverb back down. Back to a basic sound. And that's not that interesting. Even if you filter it, it's like, okay. You know, you might hear people say that Ableton instruments suck or Ableton instruments are boring or the presets are not good. Well, when you have a plain, flat, dry sound, it's going to feel a little bit like, eh. So here we go. Let's get some ping pong delay on here and reverse engineer a little bit of what's happening with this one. So let's see, delay feedback, dry, wet. Feedback is a time of how long the feedback is going to bounce around. Dry, wet on the delay, and bit crusher, which is a separate thing after the delay. Okay. And then there's a final glue compressor. So what do we do with now? First of all, notice that the delay dry wet only goes up to 40%. That avoids the problem of messing up your original dry synth, because when it goes up to 100%, you can lose the actual first hit, and you only hear the echoes afterwards, which can make it feel like your timing is off or something. So generally, for an inline effect with a delay, 50% is like the wettest you should make it. Let's set that up to 50%. Where's my parameter? Which one am I editing? I forgot. Oh, I'll click right on here. Click right on here. By clicking on the macro knob in the browser, it highlights which actual field you need to touch. I want to do dry wet. Hello. I want to set that max to 100%, and I don't know why I can't do it. That's interesting. Maybe because we need to map on this one. There we go. Okay, now for an example of why 100% wet delay is not the right thing. Is my loop off or something like that? It was. See that tiny little bit? The loop was off. Now, so our chord is on the downbeat. Down. Right? Super obvious. Chord is on the downbeat. If we take the dry wet up to 100%, we lose the downbeat. Down, down, down. And clearly you don't want to lose the downbeat. You don't want to lose the actual notes you're playing. You don't want to have 100% effects. So let's go back to our effect mapping. Take that down to, let's say, 45%, so it's nice and wet. Exit that one, and there's our dry wet. And then our delay feedback with the echo plugin. When you get above 100%, it starts to take off to way too much. Let's make sure our glue compressor's on. I set that up to a limiter. Put the clipper on there. Get a little protection in place. We're going to bring feedback up to just 101. And stop everything. And check out what happens. The echo is going to feedback the output of the echo back to the input and slowly grow and morph over time and get that super, like, I don't know, it's like a dub echo delay sound. It's a very classic sound. Let's build it up a little bit more. It's just going. Check the glue compressor. The volume's going to be going up. It's starting to hit the threshold on there. It's going to get nasty. And that's all feedback of the echo device putting the output of the echoes back into the input. And it's going to get a little out of control. Fortunately, with automation, you can ride that up and ride it back down, and it'll fade out. So there's a technique with dub echoes where you use that feedback. You know, you put the sound into the feedback, get it building up and it becomes like a riser. Like, the white noise riser goes. Well, if you don't want to use a pasted on white noise riser that everybody's heard a million times, you can use the feedback setting with the Echo plugin or another plugin that does feeding back. Go above 100% and let it build up. The farther up you go, the faster the buildup happens. So if you want to build up over only 8 bars, use like 120%. Or if you want to have a 32 bar buildup that builds up nice and slow, use like 105% or something like that. And you can hear that it just goes shock, 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 and changes over time. Another good thing to do with that is open up your Echo filter settings, which I think are on the first tab, expand that little sidebar, and you can filter what's coming out so that you don't have like you don't want to have a lot of bass going through in there. And you also don't want to have a narrow band of mid-range because then it can, again, get super screechy and everything. So it's nice to have a bandpass filter on your Echo plugin and use that feedback parameter as, that feedback parameter as part of like your compositional tools where you think, okay, my track is having something happen. Maybe I'll cut the kick drum out, have this big echo swell, and right when it meets that peak of madness of like overlapping, then drop the kick drum back in, fade the echo back down, and you've got a really nice organic swell in the track. And remember, the best buildups come from sounds that we're already hearing that grow and change over time and turn into something new. So like classic buildups that work are like a reverse crash or a white noise riser. We hear them all the time, and they always do work, and it sounds good, but it's like salt and pepper on your food. Like kind of just, it's just there. But when you have a sound that we're listening to in the track for a few minutes, and then suddenly out of nowhere it starts to morph and grow and get all crazy and weirded out, then it's like, oh, it sounds like somebody in the track is tweaking the music to make it stay interesting, which is why I love delay and echo. So we've got the ping pong happening. We've got some feedback up here, the dry wet proportion. Let's get our reverb coming in again. We have the reverb decay time. So why do you want decay time on your reverb? Well, you don't want to overlap your harmonic progressions. So right now we only have one chord over and over again. It's okay to have this for your reverb. It's not going to smear anything. But if you're doing a chord progression that's changing, you might want to have your reverb sound big with a high, like wet proportion, like a lot of reverb, and then have it fade down relatively quickly so your next chord can come in. You don't have the harmony of reverb on top of the next chord, if that makes sense. Give me a yes on chords if you're with me on that. Timing is really important, and clarity of the sounds is important. Even when you're doing atmospheric, ambient, washy stuff, you don't want to create a mud puddle. It can still be clear with a lot of wet effects, and you kind of just shape them so they're not totally on top of each other. So in that case, if I had chords changing, I might want a shorter decay time, shorter delay feedback, but I can still have a high dry-wet ratio. It's really important to understand the difference between wet-dry versus a long duration. So the wet-dry is like how much of the effect you're getting, then the time setting is like how long it extends over time. And then for fun, I don't know what Mindbender was doing. He got a little creative here with this bit crusher. And I just mean, I would not think of this myself. But check out how that feels. Let's go up a little bit on that feedback. And as that's changing, it's just getting kind of, I don't know how I'd describe that. It's a little bit like a flanger, but it's like a crunchy flanger, a little distortion. Anytime you have distortion on a sound, it sort of pushes it to the front of the mix and bites through a little bit better. And then you can start tweaking these together. What if we did some synth noise to get that fuzz on the front? So what I'm doing right there is modulating two things together, where I turn up the synth noise to get that scratch layer and open the filter and close it so we get a filter sweep where it's going, and that filter sweep motion is going into the delay to repeat. So this is a fun instrument. You can tweak this thing all day long on top of a skeleton of beats and basically have a track to play with. So let me show you, what is it? It's only 12:20, good. I like to have a short workshop once in a while. I'm gonna show you this track that I built just yesterday, yeah. And as we're listening to it, watch the automation moving, listen to what's happening, and I'll open up some automation lanes. And maybe you can pick up something helpful about automation. I want to pick a lane. What am I going to do? I want to see synth noise. So I'm just going to click on the synth noise macro. Ableton assigns it to that lane. I'll click the plus sign to get a new lane. I could drop down none and say, oh my God, where's the It's hard to find that stuff. That's a long list. I honestly don't want to look at that entire list. So I'll just open up a new automation lane, click on synth attack. I can see those changes. Click the plus sign, click on filter. Plus sign, reverb dry wet. Notice what I'm doing is going through them in order so I can read my automation lanes, and if I want a pencil tool, edit them. Get them all in one place. Delay feedback, delay dry wet, and bit crush. Now, that looks a little crazy because that's a lot of automation lanes happening. But when you can see the knobs moving and hear what's happening, I hope it'll make sense a little bit. So let's watch this for a second. See what's coming up with the filter. There's that sweep with the synth noise turned up. This is kind of fun for me. I could watch it and be like, ha ha ha. And it's a pretty simple track right now. There's a kick drum, a sub bass line, a couple layers of breakbeat drums, and this one instrument. And that's enough of a skeleton to feel like something we could listen to. Alex, that would make a lovely swell. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. That's what it's all about, is making build-ups and swells. Feels like the delay feedback is too short. Oh, there it goes up to 38%. Nice. And I found that tweaking the bit crusher kind of slowly made it sound interesting. Let's open up the overview. Maybe that might be fun to see some of the beat layers. So up top, there's purple for the kick drum and the sub bass. That bright purple is the dub techno chords. And then these brighter colors in the middle are different percussion layers. So you can kind of see that there's like where the beats are coming in and out. And when you have a long, slow sound that you're tweaking over time, to make an interesting track, go for like every 8 bars or 16 bars, add a percussion layer, mute a percussion layer, bring sounds in and out, and just sort of have the beats changing, and that's enough. You don't have to go crazy and do a whole lot else. I think this instrument just gives you an idea for a track. Put in a chord, tweak it over time, add in some beats, and don't have to do a lot other than that. This isn't really mixed yet, so give me some space on that. We had a conversation in Discord about the presentation of the mix, where it's like, for dub techno, maybe it shouldn't be like maybe the beats are too loud or too aggressive. The beats are maybe supposed to be more subdued. But I'm feeling it for now. What do y'all think about this beat? How does that feel? Do you think the chord is working as a centerpiece with this beat around it? That was a reverse kick drum beat. Just like in track feedback, I stop and check it out. How did I do that? Let's go back to that transition. Here's 2 bars. Just a little bit of a gap can be the best transition sometimes. And let me know if you have any questions. It's about 12:30, and I'm happy to answer anything you can think of. Otherwise, we're just gonna watch the automation lanes and listen to the sound. man, it's snowing like crazy. I'm so glad to be inside. It was raining last night, then it turned to ice overnight. Now it's like fresh snow on top of ice from last night. And they're not even really plowing a lot of streets. Kind of a good day to be inside doing this. Here we are towards the end of the track. Bass line, one beat, interesting synth. Now we're working the wet reverb towards the end of the track to just space it out. You can see the bit crusher is going to be doing something here at the end. See the glue compressor getting hit just to bring the peaks down so we can hear some of the lower level sounds. And not everybody likes bit crusher. You don't have to use it. If you don't like it, I think it's just a 0. You know what I like to do? Let me show you another mapping trick that I like to do is map the power switch to the same knob as the wet dry and set the minimum and maximum like this, 1 1 0. I think it's 1 0 or 0 1. That way, if I don't want the bit crusher, when I take the effective parameter down to 0, the power switch goes off. You see that? It's totally getting bypassed with that on-off switch on the same one knob control. And if you have an effect that never goes totally off, like sometimes flangers can be like that or phasers, and you really know that you don't always want it, or a gate, if you have a gate in an effects rack, and you only want it sometimes. When you want it, and if you don't, you want to have it totally bypassed. Sometimes putting the wet dry all the way dry is not enough to like remove the total effect. So it can help to just bypass that one power switch. With the mapping settings, one more time, enter mapping mode, click power switch, do minimum 1, maximum 0, which means when the knob is all the way down, it's going to shut off the whole, it's going to just like bypass it. And then as soon as you turn the knob up a little bit, it goes back on. That was not intuitive to me that the word minimum means 1 and the maximum means 0, but those settings work to achieve what you want to have happen in there. So that's a hot little tip for you. And there we are again. Let's just hear how we ended that. What I wanted to do is just end with the chord sound with the effects, tweak the effects a little bit. Since that's like the main character of the track, figure that should be the last sound we hear. How are we ending it? Well, we got the filter down to a dark setting, reverb all the way up, dry wet, playing with the delay a bit, and letting the atmosphere kind of hold a longer, like, it's like if you had a room and the music was getting quieter and quieter, but the reverb was staying up in the big part of the room. And then how did we start? Let's see. Aha! Just the dub techno chord sound. Now, I think based on the ending, it might be cool to start our filter lower. That was supposed to be bit crush, right? And filter layer right here. Let me get a little more space on my filter. And another one of my favorite maneuvers is to bend the automation a little bit. So I could, overdub and record automation on here. But let's say for the first 8 bars, I want to have the filter ramp in. I could go like this and have a straight ramp. But if you hold down the Option key and drag up and down, you can bend your automation curve to make it a little bit different from just a straight ramp. So I'm going to give it a shape like this so that the filter is dark at the beginning, it starts to change a bit, and then changes slowly. I don't know if you might totally know this already, but just some little tricks. There it is. Just coming in. 12:30. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. This is pretty much all I wanted to show you today was how we have a basic sound and develop it with effects. So if we bypass everything again, just to review, there goes bye-bye filter, bye-bye delay, bye-bye reverb, and we're back to only this operator with some synth noise and a real super dry sound. So when you're playing with operator, don't get depressed if you feel like your operator patch is not interesting or you don't know how to make it sound good. By applying some layers of effects and things you can tweak, such as reverb, filter, and some echo, it can become really interesting. And notice that, I guess I didn't point this out yet, but the delay here is after the reverb. Usually you put delay first and reverb second, because delay is like a copy of the sound, and the copy goes into the reverb effect, so they dry and the copy get the same like reverb space. But in this situation, since the goal here is to make it like an ambient washy kind of thing, we're putting the reverb into the delay, which means the ambient wash of reverb is going to get copied in the delay and really echo and fill up a lot of space. That's a key thing I didn't mention. Like if you're doing vocals, put it like vocal first, then delay, and then reverb. And if they're all in a straight line, I would go like vocal dry, delay at 15%, and reverb at like 9% or something, so that you hear the main voice really clear and the effects are around it. And of course, those percentages and everything depend on what effect you're using and all that kind of thing. All right, feeling the groove. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for a minute to answer, and then of course we got track feedback tomorrow. I closed Discord, so I can't show you the window again, but this effects rack is available, or this instrument rack is available in the Mix and Texture Discord server under the preset section. From Morten Mindbender, thank you so much for doing this. And if you want to play with the chord modulator there, what's the technical name of that? Not sure. Make your own chords, make your own patterns, sequence it, do something creative. That's available. There's always like a 1-minute delay on YouTube, so I don't get questions at the moment or comments when I ask them. If anybody's curious, while I'm here, what I did to create this arrangement that you see like this is I basically started here and I built scenes that I could go through where every scene has different sounds in it. Okay, that's the one I was editing for our workshop, so that's not. Better note that. Workshop clip. Cut the beat for a minute with a gap. Wait, and drop the kick in this up. I'll go through these scenes quicker than I did in the original song. But the idea is that every scene has different stuff happening. The next scene called Gap, the kick drum's missing. For a little break, and then we come back. Just before the workshop, I started playing with that pattern. So let's say I want to have that in for a couple sections, and then it's going to drop out. And this way I can go through the scenes and feel how the song form should flow. And, go back up, repeat one, get my idea of like how the song sections are going to go. I don't have to copy and paste. I don't have to stop and mouse click and do all this stuff. I can just use these scenes to play through the song structure and get an idea for how I want it to feel. Which is great for performance, where you can get in front of a crowd, fire off your scenes. You know that you're going to have a song structure. You don't have to worry about trying to mute and unmute 17 channels at once with your mouse, which is impossible. And you can still extend it longer. You can let one scene go for a long time, or you can skip a scene if it's getting boring, and you can go through a live set in a really cool way to be able to improvise and have a tight mix and have control of your song structure all in the same place, which is why Ableton is called live. What happens in the next scene? It's called Gap. So just cut out some beats for like 2 bars and drop it back in with a different combination of drums. You can see in the zone breaks, there's different combinations. And these scenes are labeled build down layers. We're going to start subtracting after the peak of the track. And if you listen, you'll hear that just different sounds are dropping out. And this is the point where I was recording a lot of automation on here. So what I should probably do is keep my hand on filters. Octavio, it's a download of just the instrument rack. Do you want the whole project? What is that? SM1 Luzi. Yes, you can ask a question right now. And Octavio, if you want this project, I can pack it up and make it as a download with Gumroad, I think. So if you want this, yeah. Are you on 11? You on Live 11? Because I'm on 11 Suite. And I want to make sure you can actually use it. So tell me what you want. If you want the drum stems because you like the sounds, you can have those. Or if you want the actual project to see the layout of what I did with the beats and everything, I'm happy to give you that. This is cool. And SM1, I'm sorry I don't know what your name is, but yes, put your question in and I'll jump into it. Well, that bit crusher is crazy. Oh, you're on 11. All right, cool. Yeah, man. So I'll make a little project pack. I'll pack it up on Gumroad and make it available for a download. Well, you can ask a topic about Ableton or music or something. I mean, if you're going to ask me about cooking, that's a little off topic right now. I don't know. Just put in your question. If I can help you, I will. If not, we'll leave it for another time. And until then, I'm going to fire off this next scene. Ow. Oh, you know what else I could point out? This is kind of fun. I just remembered this. Check out how the drums just changed. Let's mute them. See, we got drums up on B for the reverb. Nice little reverb. What's happening on send A? Got that resample beat coming in. Yeah, I'm gonna play all the drums together, and then we'll hear what's happening with return A. I made some delay layers. Let's send these out to master. Oh, what does that do? Not now. So now, I wanted to do I was challenging myself to just do something totally different that I hadn't done before. So since the theme of the dub techno chords was like long echoes extending over time, I made the delay on the beats and I put it up into the reverb. And then there's a short one on the left. So together with the dry drums. All right, so there's our beat. And listen to how this comes in with the delay around it. So it's like a little bit of a flutter in the background of the beat to add to the rhythm. Oh, question. Do I have tinnitus? And if so, how do you cope with it? Yeah, man. I have come home from a lot of shows with tinnitus. Yeah, there's treatment, no cure. Well, the first thing I did was I started wearing earplugs all the time at every show, and this was years ago. So when I was a teenager going to punk rock shows, I'd be like, yeah, dude, I got kicked in the face, and you'd have a lot of problems, including tinnitus and other injuries after a show. Once I was in my 20s, I started wearing earplugs at every show, every rave, concert, DJ set. And the worst thing is that the events that you go to more often are usually the worst sound. Like if you go to a normal average bar that's not even having a concert, a lot of times they have these little bookshelf speakers way up at the top of the bar. The volume is cranked and they're playing like Summer of '69 or some rock song that just sounds like trash. And the people around you have to scream to even have a normal conversation. You get home, your voice is sore from just trying to talk loud over the ambient noise of the really crappy overdriven sound system that's in distortion. That experience can give you tinnitus just as much as a loud concert. So a lot of times big clubs that have nice, big, clean sound, that's running efficiently without distorting the speakers and stuff, it's easier on your ears because remember, if the sound itself is distorted, your eardrum is going to be copying that distorted waveform inside your head, which is like not good. So there isn't a cure for tinnitus that I've ever found that works. I've heard people say you can, improve it or change it or something like that. But when it's really bad, it just doesn't get better and it stays that way. So the main thing is prevention. And don't ruin your ears because you just got two. Next question. How many ideas do you usually put into like a 40-minute live set? Well, a 40-minute live set, I would want to have at least 4 different songs, which means a different bass line and a different set of drums that are distinct enough that we can feel the change. And if you're good with what you're doing with your buildups and peaks and drops, you can play a track for 10 minutes, tweak the different layers, play with the effects, drop the beats in and out, make it emotionally engaging, vocal samples, whatever, and have a live set that's really cool. Or if you have a live set with, an MC, a singer, a soloist, a saxophone, or whatever, 10 minutes could be enough, and you could have an amazing 45-minute show where you basically do 4 pieces of music. You can make your intros longer than a DJ set. You can make your outros longer than a DJ set. You can even stop and have some crowd response and stuff. So it depends on what kind of a club you're in, what kind of setting you're in. But say, if you're new to performing and you're maybe going to get nervous, you want to bring twice as much. So have like 8 songs where like the plan is like, all right, this is the main section of bass line and beats for this song. I'm going to build into it by adding up layers, have some peaks and drops, build out of it by subtracting layers, tweak some effects, and then merge with the intro of the next track to have a continuous set that goes into the next one. Don't rush the mix. Don't let yourself do a 2-minute song and then, you're like 20 minutes into the show and you're out of songs. That's happened before. I'm not sure how deep you're into this for live treatment or live performance. So I hope that answer is helpful. All right, so I'm going to make a project pack of this session. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'm always available, steve@mixitexture.com. Join us in Discord. Go to Discord, download the app, get it on your computer, and join the Mixitexture Discord server. That is where we have all kinds of production talks, hangouts, chats, people hanging out with each other, doing collaborations. We've got people who are mix engineers, mastering engineers who you can get in touch with and find out if your track is ready for release and get it ready if it's not. We're doing track feedback twice a week where we play through people's tracks from Discord and listen to sound design, song structure, and the mix to make sure the track feels right. And that's really important because as a producer, it's really easy to be critical of yourself. It's very easy to get bored with your track and think it sucks when actually it's amazing. And you need a community of other producers to hear your ideas fresh and tell you, oh my gosh, this is amazing, don't cut that part out. And oh, I hear it on my speakers, it needs more bass, or I hear it in my headphones and there's way too much of this. You really need a community to just give you that feedback so you know that the core is awesome and the parts that need to be tweaked are relatively minor. Most of the tracks we get in track feedback are, I would say, 75% perfect, and there's just a couple of things that need to get changed, maybe 2 revisions, and it's ready for release. And people are putting out tracks on Beatport all the time, coming through our group. I'm really psyched about it. I'm so proud of everybody who's doing the work, doing the updates, bringing them in, sharing them week by week, twice a week sometimes, and making it happen in your life. So that's about it for me. Track feedback tomorrow at 12. Agreed. Thank you, Octavio. Really nice to see you in the group, and I love the tracks you're making. So what I was saying with the harmonic thing, the track you sent me this morning, the bass line was good. The updated bass line, it was deep and it felt good in between the kick drum, but it felt sort of like it was just one note playing all the time, and I couldn't really tell if it was different notes or not. Now, it could be just one note as a sub pressure and that little chord sample on top, and that could be enough. Add some glitchy beats and that kind of thing, like that minimal sound. Or possibly if the bass line is playing different notes, it might help to have just one other track of a pad synth or a synth of some kind to just define the chord so we can identify, like, here's the melodic world, here's what the bass line's doing, and have them fit together. So play with that and maybe have a track for us tomorrow. Cool. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Smash the like button. You know what to do. And I'm going to get back to my broadcast window. There's a mix I made. And any last questions? Looks like we're good. All right, awesome, everybody. See you tomorrow for track feedback, 12 o'clock here on YouTube.